check the results are in. Tom Brady.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. So, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Walks and Wall Street. Today is Friday, March 22nd, 2024, and the current time is 9:06 p.m. Eastern. It's about 39 degrees Fahrenheit. It is a cold and windy night here in New York City, and we are reporting live from the corner of West 60th Street and Broadway, looking down into Columbus Circle. Now, something pretty cool about this view here, if you look just over to the left, you could actually see the chefs that are cooking the food at the Jean-Georges, which is pretty cool. This is a Michelin star restaurant that is inside the Trump International Hotel and Tower. The address is 1 Central Park West. Now, we have a lot to cover tonight. Markets were flat, nothing too exciting, but we actually have to cover some major news. I mean, really horrible stuff, really unfortunate stuff happening today. There's some developing news, formerly breaking news. A major, what appears to be an ISIS terrorist attack in Moscow, Russia, killed at least 60 people so far and injured hundreds more. Just terrible, terrible news. So we're going to be watching that story as it develops. Just extremely sad. It's almost unbelievable. 60 people is insane. But with that kind of breaking piece of news out of the way, I wanted to kind of go over some interesting numbers. A lot of times on the stream, we like to look for and be aware of identifying new trends, right, in the marketplace, whether that is the trend of AI, cloud computing, you name it. It's very, very important to always be looking for and identifying new emerging trends so that we can both take advantage of it from an investment opportunity, but also from a career standpoint and just to stay ahead of the game. Now, we have some viewership numbers that came out that pretty much confirms what we've been saying all along, that legacy media is dying in a major, major way. So CNN averaged about 582,000 primetime viewers in 2023. Now, if we kind of compare that to some of the major news shows that live on the internet, podcasts, etc., for some context here, the Joe Rogan Experience brought in, on average, 14.5 million listeners. TED Talks Daily bringing in over 5 million listeners, and then coming in at number 3 with 3.7 million listeners is Call Her Daddy. Not too sure what that is, but this is an interesting trend that we need to continue to watch. As legacy media continues to be in structural decline, I believe more independent journalists, independent news sources are going to start to pop up on platforms like YouTube, Spotify, and the like. And Spotify is a publicly traded company. Now, they IPO'd, their initial public offering was back in April of 2018, and the stock hasn't really been performing that well up until lately, where it's performing actually very, very good. So if you take a look at the ticker symbol SPOT, spot for Spotify Technologies, we are actually coming up on a pretty much like a 2-year cup with handle base here. The stock is trading at $264 a share. Now, the all-time high on Spotify, we have to go back to February of 2021 when the stock hit a brand new all-time record high of $385. So we're starting to break new 52-week highs, coming up on new all-time record highs. So it's going to be interesting to kind of watch these platforms, right? I think Spotify is in a great position here. Obviously, as legacy media declines, you need to give people diversity of choice. You need to be adapting to where people want to consume content. And judging by the statistics and the data, that tends to be on the internet, away from traditional cable. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I'll go ahead and drop this link in the chat while I'm by my computer, and then we'll go ahead and get started on this live stream tonight. I appreciate everybody joining us. Again, we're reporting live from Columbus Circle, New York. And happy Friday to everybody before we have this crazy rain. It's supposed to rain 4 inches tomorrow. So the Weather Service has advised severe flooding advisories, severe weather advisories for tomorrow. I believe the storm is supposed to start at 2 o'clock in the morning and go all the way until Sunday morning early. So not too sure if we're going to be streaming in that tomorrow. It's going to be 30-mile-an-hour winds, torrential downpours, and flash flooding in Manhattan. So we'll see what happens. All right, thanks so much for joining, and give me a minute. Feels like the temperature is way colder than 39 degrees. Anyway. All right, what's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Hopefully you all have some fantastic plans to the weekend. Peter, what's going on? I see Susanna Q4. Welcome, welcome. Gary, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. Gary says you'd be streaming, but it won't be on the internet. What's going on? Gary, welcome, welcome. Now guys, this building right here in front of us is 15 Central Park West. It's nicknamed the Limestone Building. Love this building. This is as you come up to the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Really, really beautiful. We're standing on the patio of the Trump International Hotel and Tower, which is located at 1 Central Park West. And we'll just do a quick pass by of the kitchen at Jean-Georges. It is a Michelin star restaurant, but here you can see kind of the clouds are rolling in for this monster storm. I see Potos here, Steph UF, what's going on? R2D2, Tim, hey Tim, RPT, Joe Hernandez, Justin. Yeah, you know, not too much going on in the market today. You know, all the major indices closed slightly in the negative, but really nothing to sneeze at. Kind of low volume across the board on all the exchanges. All the major news has passed, right? This week is officially over. It was very, very heavy on central banks. We heard from the Bank of Japan, just as a quick review. They no longer have negative interest rates over there in Japan. We heard from Fed Chair Jerome Powell, which came off much too dovish for my liking, but we'll see. The markets pretty much took off to the races after the Federal Reserve Chairman pretty much promised free money in perpetuity, easing monetary conditions and the like.
Bye, get home safe, I'll see you tomorrow.
MD says the DWAC merger happened today. It did. Now this is going to be really interesting here. Now, not to get too political, but I think it's important to talk about because this is a new issue. Should this deal go through, right, and it comes public on the major exchanges, the former president, Donald Trump, is set to rake in a windfall of over $3 billion. So, you know, this is coming at a time where he's going through this intense litigation. He can't post the bond, right, which, in my opinion, the whole thing is just a little bit ridiculous. But, and there is a potential that they're going to come after some of his properties, not only in New York, but across the country. So it'll be interesting to see how this new issue plays out. On the other hand, though, does anybody actually use Truth Social? I mean, be honest, maybe you do. Maybe some people do. I don't. I've never been on the website, never been on the platform. I don't know anything about the company's earnings, nothing. Do people actually use that thing? Have they released statistics or data showing us like average daily users? Because I feel like not a lot of people use that thing. I don't know one person in my friends group that's on that thing. This is the Mandarin Oriental Hotel that is inside the Deutsche Bank Tower. Super White Shadow says I do. The Vegas one says yes, I'm using it. So, and again, you know, we're talking about this. Let's try to not get too riled up. But for those of you in the chat who do use Truth Social, what's an honest opinion on it? Is it just like an echo chamber of conservatism? And this is coming from a conservative, by the way. I'm very, very conservative in the way I live and in my politics. But I feel as if Truth Social is so polarized that it really wouldn't attract the masses. It would kind of attract an echo chamber. So I'm not too sure how sustainable of a business model that is, right, from an investment standpoint. But then again, I don't know, because I don't use the platform. So I'd like to hear from you guys. Is it a good platform? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are there voices from the left on the platform? Is it not? I think it's important to understand. Super White Shadow says, yes, Tom, there are liberals on it. Alan says, as a Trump supporter, I used to follow Donald Trump, but I don't use it as in posting on it. Copy that. RB says, I do. There is no other platform for Trump supporters in terms of no censoring. And Josh L says, Tennessee signed a law protecting artists and musicians against AI. I didn't hear about that. Thank you for posting that in the chat. Yeah, I mean, the whole AI thing, I don't know how that's going to turn out for musicians. I mean, I don't even understand how you could enforce something like that. My friends have been sending me these AI songs on YouTube that, quite frankly, I think I like it better than the original songs that were written by the artist, right? You can look up any artist you want, right? So pick your favorite artist, right? The only one I can think of right now, just out of lack of a better term, let's just say Billy Joel or Justin Bieber or whatnot, right? You can essentially have them sing any song you like, and the AI will pretty much match it 100% perfectly. So I don't know how that's going to impact artists. I really don't know. I also thought about the whole AI thing with voiceover actors. Now, back in the day, and even still today, think about all the cartoons that are out there, right? Think about like a Family Guy. Think about pretty much any cartoon, both on the adult side and children's cartoons, like a Nickelodeon, a Cartoon Network. You know, at one point there were some people, right, and still to this day, there's people actually doing the voiceover for these characters. AI can just do that, and AI can make any kind of voice behave in any type of way, and you could work the thing in perpetuity forever and you don't have to pay it. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. That's probably going to disrupt Hollywood in a major way. This is the shops at Columbus Circle. Hey, Jamie says, the amazing thing is that AI is now threatening creative roles as much or more than it is repetitive low skill roles. Yeah, for sure. Vegas, what's going on? Wendy, England. Well, we'll see. Yeah, lots of stuff going on, but I am interested to see some of the financials of Truth Social and to see if it's going to be, you know, a moneymaker, a big business model. We'll see. I don't know. I haven't really done any research into it. Maybe I'll create a Truth Social account just to do some market research. But I like X. I mean, the true pure play social media platform that I think I get the most value out of, right? Like in terms of my time spent on a platform investing into it, what do I get the biggest ROI? I would have to say X, formerly known as Twitter, by far, right? mainly because Twitter has kind of fallen into these different subcategories. If anybody has an X account, there's FinTwit, right, or financial Twitter, where people discuss stocks and equities. And there's actually some major fund managers on the platform. Then you also have Retwit, like real estate Twitter, where people discuss the real estate market, private equity, big multifamily transactions, and there's also massive players on there too. So I feel it's almost as if it's an educational networking platform that is going to make LinkedIn obsolete. That's a big hot take that I have. MD says yes, definitely agree on X. Lark Bark, what's going on? Kyle says, Tom, are you a March Madness guy? I'm a big March Madness guy. However, I'm so oblivious to everything. I don't even know when it starts. Is it starting now? I usually fill out the brackets because it's really fun. Now, I'm not a big basketball guy. I don't really watch professional sports, but I love college basketball only around March Madness because it's very entertaining and I love it. I guess that'd be a good question to ask. Has March Madness started? I'm sure it has, right? I mean, March is almost over. Yeah, Shadow Ships is there, is also Reddit. So we talked about that last night. So look, guys, this IPO market's starting to open back up. Reddit did go public via IPO yesterday. I think yesterday was the first official day of trading for Reddit, which is honestly the first social media company to go public since Pinterest back in 2017, I think. They trade under the ticker symbol PINS, P-I-N-S. This is an awesome shot of Central Park Tower and 220 Central Park South. Oh, Joe Hernandez says you're watching March Madness right now. I should probably watch March Madness right now. What teams are in there? Now, this is kind of off topic, but it's Friday night. We can kind of get off topic. I used to love watching Kansas State play, Syracuse University, the Orange. Loved that basketball team back in the day. Now, I used to watch, let me try to see if I can remember some players. Let's see if you guys remember these old basketball players from way back in the day. Okay, who remembers Chris Joseph that used to play for Syracuse? Then you had Scoop Jardine. He was good. He was very fun to watch. There was also Hakeem Christmas. I remember him. Unfortunately, he was from Brazil, and I think he just passed away like 2 years ago on like a freak accident, or he went back to Brazil and he was murdered or something crazy. I also loved watching UConn. Kemba Walker, I believe, used to play for UConn, I think, and it was the most iconic game ever. Who remembers UConn Syracuse in Madison Square Garden? I believe it went to like 6 overtimes or something crazy. That was the most insane game, and it happened right here in New York City. That was pretty cool too. Monty says, Tom, what is your favorite college March Madness college team? I like to root for the New York teams, and the New York teams that usually do well is like Syracuse. They usually are pretty good, but none of the downstate New York teams are really any good. Like St. John's, I don't know, I haven't watched it in a long time, but any New York State team I root for. So like Cornell sometimes will make it. I'll pull for them. St. John's, Syracuse, things like that, like New York teams, Kansas State, stuff. Neighbor Bob's, Charles Oakley. Hey, Sarah, welcome. Mark Tease is being from Connecticut. I hope the Huskies win it all. Purdue, yeah, Purdue usually has a good team. Oh, that's right, Isabella. Carmelo Anthony. He,
You think it takes?
that was, whoa. If you want to take it way back, Carmelo Anthony was 2003. He was on Syracuse, and I believe they won the national championship with Carmelo Anthony, I think. Then obviously he went to the NBA, became a massive superstar, like one of the greatest players of all time. And I think that's the last time they won a national championship was 2003 with Carmelo Anthony. Awesome shot of 157 here. And the New York Athletic Club. Lynette says hello from Florida. Good to see you, Lynette. Arby says, don't think you were even born, but the Miami Heat built the original squad around Roney. Yeah, I have no idea who that is. Yeah, 1988 is a little bit too early for me. I was born in 95. But yeah, it's kind of cool sometimes, you know, to reminisce on those. I got to get back into the sports swing of things, and I'll tell you exactly when sports totally fell out for me. And this kind of has to tie into, you know, humans are very used to routine. When COVID happened, right, the virus, when you know, they shut down all sports. There was nothing on, so it was like out of sight, out of mind, and I just never got back into it. I'm sure that's likewise for many of you in the chat. You know, I used to pay attention to soccer. I used to pay attention to the Premier League. I used to pay attention to MLS, college basketball. Once the pandemic happened, then it was out of sight, out of mind. I never paid attention to it ever again. TK Porsche says the Chicago Bulls were 6-time champs in the 90s. Very nice. This is a cool shot of Alwyn Court. Michael Jordan's daughter, I think, went to Syracuse or something like that. Anyway, so we have the Reddit IPO that came out yesterday, and then now we're going to have this Truth Social going public via SPAC. It'll be interesting to see if we get this new wave, or if any of these things really pick up steam. We kind of talked about this last night, but I don't really know how sustainable of a business model Reddit is. I mean, I have a Reddit account, I use it, but I never really see any advertising. And I don't know how good it converts. There was a study that came out that shows the best conversion, right? So the best bang for your buck in terms of what platforms you should be advertising on. It's number 1 Facebook, number 2 Instagram, and at the bottom of the barrel, right? And I'm gonna have to hate on Elon Musk a little bit here. I think he's gonna change things in a big way, but you get the worst ROI or conversions advertising on Twitter or X. And I really think that's because Twitter was historically very text-based, right? And it's much more engaging to have an advertisement that is a picture, right? If you're scrolling through Instagram and you see like a reel that's an ad for some cooking product or some supplement, or I'm just giving an example, that's much more visually appealing and enticing for somebody to click on that ad and buy it than you scroll through a bunch of text on Twitter. And Elon Musk and the team realizes that. So that is why they're trying to be more video focused. Have you noticed that Elon has been trying to recruit big, news anchors, give them big deals on his platform? I know the Dom Lemon deal kind of went south, but you get the point. They are trying to integrate more so and more often video and audio into the X platform. Probably, number one, to make the user experience better, to keep users growing, but make advertisers get a better ROI. If you wanted to take like an arbitrage approach, thinking about it like that, maybe it's actually best to start to advertise on X right now, right? If you're a small business owner, or, let's just say if you're a one-man shop or a one-woman shop, right? Maybe you should be pouring advertising dollars into X, because the advertising rates are going to be really low and it'll push your ads more. And as the content becomes more visual based, audio based, potentially you'll get a higher ROI. Because if you're advertising on Facebook or Instagram or any of those other platforms, yeah, you're probably going to get high conversion rates, but you're also going to pay up for that too. So it's an interesting kind of way to think about it, I guess. Now here's a question for the group. Does anybody here currently advertise on any of those platforms? And do you find conversion rates are way better on Facebook and IG? Pineapple Water says, hey Tom, you sound more energetic this evening. I did get a chance to read your Substack for the first time. Well, Pineapple Water, that is why I'm so energetic. I got a notification that said, hey, your viewer Pineapple Water subscribed to your Substack. I was like, dude, that made my day. That's why I'm a little bit more energetic tonight. Well, thank you for being here. As we head down into Times Square, Gary says, I've been advertising on Facebook and Google search for over 10 years. And Gary, I know we talked about this before, so I do have a little bit of a context on where you're coming from. But if you had to advise a client that's trying to go to market with their product, would you advise them to first start advertising with pay-per-click ads on Google, or with like a visual or a video ad on like a Facebook or something like that? Trade Brigade says, did you get any metric from TikTok ads? Those seem to be most of the hype for e-com folks. Yeah, so I could imagine those crush. Those probably absolutely crush. You're right. The article that I read didn't include TikTok for whatever reason. But I would actually assume that TikTok may be the best, right? Because you have to look at the demographic too. TikTok, there's a lot of young people on that. And a lot of young people are very impulsive buyers, just buying like kind of junk that they see on TikTok. So for just pure play e-commerce, like potentially buying nonsense, they probably crush. Gary says Google search is a better conversion rate. Combat Jones says, that's my agency, social media marketing, specifically on Meta. Best platform by far for return on ad spending. Neighbor Bob says, I've never had any luck advertising on Facebook. Peter says, Reddit has been around, as I understand it, for 19 years and has never made a profit, so why would it now? Making money there hasn't been figured out just yet. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just like a big message board. It's not really even like a social media. I guess you can consider it social media, but everybody has like an anonymous nonsense username there. Hey Sandy, what's going on? This is who's pouring all the money into Facebook stock. It's gone up almost $400 in 3 months. I haven't seen any other stock move like that. Well, you could thank Mark Zuckerberg for that. I think he's done a really outstanding job. Well, let's make a quick detour here. I want to show you guys the Ed Sullivan Theater. Now, Zuckerberg, and I know a lot of people don't like him, and I get that, trust me. But we can't deny the value that he's created for shareholders just over the last 2 years, okay? Now, Facebook stock from 2021 until the bottom, until its trough, guys, Facebook was down, I think, 77% peak to trough. I'm sure you guys can look it up right now, but I think peak to trough Facebook during the bear market, the brutal bear market we had, was down over 77%. So much so that the board was so pissed off at Zuckerberg, shareholders were so upset with Zuckerberg that they forced him pretty much into a corner. We're on the earnings call where he kind of turned everything around. He named 2023 the year of efficiency. And he fired 25% of his staff. It was like a bloodbath over at Facebook or Meta. And he doubled down on his core business. Gross margins ballooned, expanded, and profitability went skyward. I think the last earnings quarter, earnings were up like 350%. So, during the pandemic, there was a lot of free money floating around, right? And companies suffered from corporate bloat. This is the Ed Sullivan Theater here, the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. And, when companies get lazy, there's a lot of duplicity in positions. I've had friends, not necessarily working at Facebook, but working at tech companies during the pandemic. They were making 6 figures and doing nothing, like literally doing nothing. So all that is gone, right, during the tightening cycle. And essentially Zuckerberg turned the company around and got very, very lean and mean. So it's essentially just a business cycle at work. It's a traditional business cycle at play. Yeah, trade brigades like negative 70% on the nose, legendary. It is crazy. We have to give Zuckerberg some credit. I know he's buying up all these bunkers in Hawaii. I know, a lot of people are not enthusiastic about him, but wow, has he made shareholders an absolute fortune? And many of us a fortune too. You own the stock inadvertently if you're invested in the S&P 500. So, hey, hang with Mark, Mom. Good to see you. We're headed down Broadway into Times Square here. Hey, go for Hokies. What's going on? Thanks so much for joining. Touring different places. Seems like there's still a lot of tourists out, even though we're going to get this crazy rainstorm here in a moment. Now, for all the criticism that Zuckerberg gets, I'm going to make a big claim. Okay, I'm going to make a big statement, big claim, and I'm just going to come out and say it. I don't think there's been a company that has done more for small businesses than Facebook or the umbrella company Meta. I really don't. I've known so many small business owners that have had their businesses absolutely blow up from targeted Facebook, Instagram advertising, right? in a very, very affordable and cheap way, and you could pretty much bring it all in-house, right? You know, just marketing in general. You don't even have to technically spend money to advertise. You can just create content for your small business. It goes viral. Next thing you know, you have 50 orders and you're making a lot of money. So, you know, for all the hate that Zuckerberg gets, I think we need to commend him for making such a great product and service. Go for Hokies says we are under a winter storm watch here in Minneapolis. Could see 21 inches of snow. Wow. Now we won't see quite that much. We'll see about 3 to 5 inches of rain. However, 3 to 5 inches of rain in New York City is probably going to cause some catastrophic flooding here, particularly in the outer boroughs, if I had to make a prediction. Hey, Soho Joe, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Hey, hang with Mark Mom. This is good word of mouth, and providing a good service is gold. Indeed it is. Hey, Davi, what's up, dude? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. It's good to see you once again as well. I'm sure you're enjoying this bull market we have going on in U.S. equities and around the world. Looks like they're filming something here. That's the cool thing about New York. You just be walking down the street, people are filming TV shows, movies. I think it was 3 weeks ago we were walking past the Saturday Night Live movie. Apparently they're making an SNL movie, and we were right on the set. It's kind of cool. Coming up on UBS. Now, another sector that we haven't really been talking about, we've been really focusing on energy, but I want everybody to keep their eye on XLF. So XLF is the ticker for the Spider Financial ETF, and the major banks are performing really well. You know, JP Morgan Chase ripping into new all-time record highs, 52-week highs yet again. So as you hear all these macro people out there, right? You know, talking about how dangerous it is in the waters out there in the banking sector. Well, that's not really reflective in the share prices of the major banks. Yes, you have some regional banks that are doing really, really poorly because they have major exposure to commercial real estate, right? We were talking about New York Community Bank, and essentially the story with New York Community Bank is they have very, very high exposure to commercial real estate and real estate that has high exposure to, you know, rent stabilization and rent control. And we have spent hours on this live stream talking about the horrors of that. But the broader, I would say, the mega banking sector and the big investment banks, like the big players, right? JP Morgan Chase with Jamie Dimon, Bank of America with Brian Moynihan. It's actually pretty robust and pretty stable. Now, if you hammer down to the pure play investment banks, like Goldman Sachs, doing really well. I think Goldman Sachs just hit a 52-week high, I believe. And a lot of the, I should say, boutique investment banks are doing quite well too over the course of the last 3 months. Like Evercore, Houlihan Lokey, Jeffries. So this tells us two things about the market, which are two very important things to give us confirmation that not only is the market broadening out in terms of breadth, but just business activity in general across the United States is picking up, as opposed to what you hear in the news. Number one, it tells us that the M&A markets, right, for mergers and acquisitions, deals are going to get done. We can use stocks as leading indicators in and of themselves. So if you have boutique investment banks that have a specialization in a specific sector of M&A, if those stocks are trading in the highs, well, they're usually forward-looking by about 6 months. That tells us that their earnings are going to totally recover and go gangbusters. And how do those bankers make money? Well, they charge fees and advisory fees, right? They make money off of the fee income. So I'm actually pretty optimistic on the M&A market. I'm optimistic on the IPO market. And I think these banks are going to make a lot of money. So chances are, if you work on Wall Street, 2024, I wouldn't be surprised, mark my words, right? We'll kind of make a note of this on the stream. I think you're going to see articles in the Financial Times, in Bloomberg, in the Wall Street Journal. Right as we head into the end of the year, the article will say something like, Wall Street bankers are set to make record bonuses. The most money they've ever made ever in history. Bankers are set to make the most money. You're going to see those headlines. I'm predicting it now. And then the media will probably spin that in a negative way and all that stuff. But that's good. That means the American economy is doing good. So they finally have the fountain back on. Yeah, Davi's his big bonuses in 2024. Now, Davi, you are in the hedge fund world, right? You're in the hedge fund business. What can you tell the group here about what you're seeing on the ground floor? Are people optimistic, particularly from an investor relations standpoint? Are people now more willing to invest? Are they optimistic? Kind of what are you seeing on the ground floor from your angle, being in the hedge fund world? This is a cool shot of Radio City Music Hall. This is such an iconic shot here. 6th Avenue and West 50th Street. Hey, Shadow Ship, what's up? Dan Sang says, hi Tom, do you have any tips on deal that just doesn't work when you tried your hardest? That happened to me today. I'd say don't hammer them. Don't push too hard. Try to build an extremely robust pipeline so you don't have to be too pushy. So you can negotiate from a position of strength, right? Now, when you're like really, really trying and scraping for the deal, people can kind of smell that. So to account for that, you got to play the long game and just kind of be desensitized to it short term and just continue to build your business with other clients, right? Because whatever line of business you're in, if you're working a deal and the customer's being very difficult, right? If that's your only deal on the table, you're going to be very adamant to maybe do things out of the element to get that deal done. You're going to come off as very desperate. But if you're working 10 deals and one guy's busting your balls, just do one of the other 9 deals, right? But that takes time. It takes time to build a very robust book of business. And the more people you contact, the more people you know, the more you think long term, in 10 years time, you're going to be in that situation, right? Where you won't have to kind of grovel with people all the time, and you can kind of really stick your worth. But in sales, and this is coming from like a tech sales background, kind of negotiating those type of deals. These people, the decision makers, they have hundreds of people calling them, hundreds of people pitching them, hundreds of people giving the same value proposition as you. So you kind of have to cast a wide net just so you don't have to kind of be in that really tough grind and maybe do something that you really shouldn't do to get the deal done, if that makes sense. Because there will be other deals. It may not seem like it if you're just starting out. It may seem like, oh, if this guy doesn't do this deal, or if this girl doesn't do this deal, I'm never going to get another deal ever. It feels like that, but it's not the case. 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by, you get another prospect, you're working another deal, and you just have to constantly build it. That's really what I would say. Hey, Tariq, what's up? Tariq Khan, welcome to 1211 Avenue of the Americas. This is the News Corporation building. Davi says, don't forget that I'm in Brazil. Can't say much for a US market, but Brazilian hedge funds are still struggling to make up for risk-free rate. We've been seeing too much foreign money going out of the country. Oof, yeah. Davi says also, we're seeing too much foreign money, going out of the country. Got it. Now, it's interesting, Davi, that you mentioned that, because this is something that one of my really, really good friends, who happens to be a very successful fund manager, kind of brought up. He said this could potentially be the best possible position the United States has been in a really, really long time. Because if you look globally, right, if we talk about global macro for a minute, I know that kind of bores people to sleep. Europe is in a bad spot, right? They're probably going to go into recession, right? I know we talk about Japan, how Japanese equities are ripping through new all-time record highs, but the stock market is not the economy. And China is, in terms of their real estate market, both residential and commercial, this is worse than 2008 for them. Like on a magnitude of probably 3. So capital flight is coming into the United States faster than it's ever have before, right? Regardless of what you hear on, TV about how everybody's dumping U.S. treasuries, the U.S. dollar is going to be, dethroned as the world reserve currency. It's interesting because it's actually the exact opposite is happening. It's actually like the complete opposite what's happening. You're seeing so much capital flight to the United States that it's actually putting pressure on a lot of other countries because we still have very high rates here comparative to the rest of the world. So if you're looking for a risk-free rate of return, why not buy U.S. treasuries? And if you continue to have foreign buyers of our debt, U.S. debt, that may actually push yields down so the Federal Reserve doesn't have to do that dirty work itself, which is interesting. This is the Marsh McLennan building. Davi says individual investors are starting to take more risk, but still at the beginning of the cycle, I assume. M&A also looks kind of good. MBA Elias is here. What's going on? Thank you for joining us. I want to be a cowboy says Wall Street is not Main Street. Very good. I agree. Hey, Fahim, what's going on? Justin says, does News Corp own Newsweek? I don't think so. Tariq says, hey Tom, any comment on the Moscow thing tonight? Yeah, we commented on it at the very beginning of the stream. That's just heartbreaking, man. I just can't even believe that. There was just a terrible terrorist attack that killed, I think, 60 people. Unfortunately, I think that death toll is going to increase. And I think over 100 people are injured, which is just absolutely insane. So I don't know. I don't want to speculate on it. It's such a it's so sad, man. That's such a tragedy. It's like a slaughter. But look, I mean, for something like that to happen in Moscow, like I've never been to Russia before, okay? And maybe some of you are more. Actually, I know most everybody is more well versed than I am here. But isn't Russia like very, very tight on their immigration policies? Now, I don't know. That's just total. I'm not basing that on any data. But like, how does Russia let in ISIS terrorists into the country? Like, isn't Russia generally a very homogenous society? I don't know. This is one Vanderbilt here. ETC333 says, good evening, everybody. Good evening to you. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey, Queen West says, I work for Marsh. That's so funny. We must have worked in the same building. I worked on the second floor. Not for Marsh McLennan, but D.E. Shaw, David Shaw and Company, which is the quantitative hedge fund, is also in there too. Before I left, on the top floor there used to be a big cafeteria, and now I think it's just additional offices, and there's like a very small cafeteria and kitchen up there. I don't know. I haven't been up there in like 3 years. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these streams every single day starting at 8:30 p.m. Tariq says, lots of unanswered questions for sure on the Moscow thing. I'm very sorry for the victims and their families. It's just stuff like that. I just can't even wrap my head around. It's disturbing. Like, I don't understand what drives these people to want to go out and do something like that. Like, what is the motive? Just slaughter a bunch of random innocent people at a concert. I just don't even understand like why that's even a thing. I don't know. Davi says, Tom, how's the real estate there? It's tough. Real estate here in New York is very tough. However, residential is picking up in a big way, but commercial is still in a little bit of a rut. Now, our team just put one of the most expensive condos ever sold. Well, not sold, it's in contract in Red Hook, Brooklyn, under contract. For $2.6 million at the Conover. So 199 Conover Street. If you want to take a look at it, if you go on Street Easy, 199 Conover Street in Red Hook, Brooklyn, the Penthouse 3A, we just put that in contract. Now, if that I'm assuming it's going to close, but you never kind of want to jinx the deal. But a $2.6 million comp in Red Hook, Brooklyn, I mean, a condo is, I mean, that really solidifies that the neighborhood is going to change in a big way. If there's any New Yorkers here that, know about Red Hook, I mean, there's really no $2.6 $1 million condo units selling at that, or there's really no comps like that. That's a big comp. But commercial real estate's difficult here. Very, very difficult, but there's opportunity. I think there's major opportunity in New York City on the commercial side. Very big. Hey, Colton Manning, what's going on, man? We're happy to have you in New York City. And these, Tom, what's the most number of stairs you've taken in New York? Probably about 50 flights of stairs. We had a fire drill once in an office building I was working at, and I walked down about 50 flights of stairs. I'd like to walk up every single flight of stairs to the top of the Empire State Building. I'd really like to do that. I saw a video, I think Casey Neistat did that. Just for fun, like to see how long it would take. Start at the bottom and walk up the stairs to the top of the Empire. And just like time it and see how long it takes. This is Salesforce Tower, Mark Benioff. NBA Elias, Tom, I wonder if the new commission structures will affect agents selling on Billionaires Row. Yeah, I think with the new NAR ruling, I think it'll have a major change to the industry. But what a lot of people don't understand is that Manhattan, we don't have an MLS here, right? So we've already been dealing with that change for a very, very long time. There is no MLS in Manhattan. Now, what I could say in terms of the buy-side comp on a residential deal, that's not going to go away for new development on premium product, right? So all of the buildings, like the big, I would say luxury buildings that are going up in New York, the developers are not going to not offer buy-side comp because they want to move these units. You have right now developers that are having a very hard time offloading product that on select deals, they're actually offering like crazy incentives to not only salespeople, but also to the consumers or the would-be buyers, right? That's why, I'm working with a client right now. We're making up an offer on a new dev building. I'm sure many of you have heard of it. It's on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, but we're going to put in the offer where we have sponsor paying transfer taxes, both New York State and New York City, sponsor paying the mansion tax and the attorney fees. Because you got to understand, in new development, usually the buyer is who pays the transfer taxes, right? In resales, it's the seller. But anyway, not to get too far off track, in terms of the NAR settlement, in smaller markets at lower price points, there will probably be no buy-side comp. The agents will probably have to negotiate that direct with their customers or with their clients. However, I don't really see that happening because if you look at the data, the vast majority of first-time home buyers even have a hard time coming up with their down payment. So they're not going to pay a realtor out of pocket. I just don't see that happening. Now, it's not all bad news. Just like in any industry, guys, you have commission compression. Where commission compression really started in the business world is actually on Wall Street in a major way. Back in the day, I'm sure many of you worked on Wall Street. You were either a stockbroker or whatnot, selling mutual funds. The commissions were insane. The fee income on Wall Street in the securities industry was nuts. You had 5% front load fees, a 5% back end load fee, commissions for trades, and like 3% per annum expense ratios or management fees. Now you don't have any of that, and it's all free trades because of payment for order flow. So I think you're going to continue to see commission compression across the board in every single industry. Now, from my understanding, with the National Association of Realtors lawsuit, it was alleged that a lot of brokerages, a lot of big brokerages, were quote unquote fixing the commissions around 6%, right? Now, they would say, hey, everything is negotiable. Every single potential commission is negotiable. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. However, the argument, right, on the opposing side is saying, look, if I interview 5 realtors from 5 different brokerages, but all of them collude together not to go under a certain commission amount, well, then I really don't have another choice, right? So that was kind of like what it was alluding to. But there's a lot of discount brokers out there that'll do it for less than 6%. Last thing I'll say is, the higher you go up in price point, you don't get, there's no 6%. You know, you're not going to get 6% to resell, you know, a $40 million property in New York City. There's no 6. You probably get 1%, something like that. So the 6% is really in the lower tier markets, but it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. I mean, what do you guys think of the judgment for the National Association of Realtors? What are your thoughts about it? All right, this is Bryant Park, and we're outside Bryant Park Grill. You know, and you could also go to an iBuyer, right? Zillow is an iBuyer. You have Redfin is another iBuyer, right? Look at how cool this is. Really nice. Let's head to Koreatown. It's probably going to be so packed tonight. Now, the other thing I'll say that's I think is good to bring up, there's all these articles that are coming out. Obviously, like attention-grabbing fear articles that are saying, you know, with this new NAR settlement, that home prices are going to crash. Like, I don't understand that logic at all. I mean, if anybody agrees with that, like, could you kind of explain it to me? Maybe I'm not smart enough to understand it, but how would lower commissions cause sales prices to trade for lower? I don't understand that. Like, if I own a house, right, and I'm sure many of you in the chat are homeowners. If I own a house and I have to pay less commissions, I'm going to drop the price of my house? No. I want to get the maximum amount of money from my house because it's my house. I mean, this isn't the charity tank. Just because I'm paying out less money in commissions doesn't mean I'm going to accept a lower offer for my house. I mean, maybe some of you will, but I wouldn't, right? As a homeowner, I want the maximum amount of money I could get from my home. So I don't understand those narratives or these articles. You know, there was even a Wall Street Journal article about it saying that this settlement is going to lead to a decline in housing prices. How do you figure that? I mean, so has anybody ever dealt with a seller? Sellers want the max they can get for the house. It just doesn't make sense. And I'm not trying to say that in a very nasty way, by the way. I'm just being a realist. If I spent, you know, a ton of my life savings on my home, am I going to be like a nice guy and, you know, accept a lowball offer on my house? Anyway, I don't know. Guys, this is the Bank of China. Right here. Yeah, Adventure says housing prices, like all prices, are based on supply and demand. I couldn't agree more. Totally agree with you. Who knows? Maybe it's just the media trying to drive clicks and headlines. I get it. It's a big settlement, so. MD says it would only make sense to do that if you were on the cusp of paying capital gains or not. TK Porsche says, I think the primary impact will be on buyers paying the buyer agent commission, and buyers are well advised to use an agent. Well, the thing is, like when I bought my house, right, I used and my agent was like really, really good. But obviously I didn't have to pay him directly because when I bought the house, I'm assuming he got a cut of the seller's commission, right? They probably split it 50-50. I don't think I would have done the deal with him. I'm just being honest, right? This stream is about being honest and living in the real world. If he said, hey, you got to pay me, $13,000 to do this deal out of my pocket, I'm like, I don't know if I could do that, dude. As first-time home buyer, I mean, I shelled out $125,000 for the down payment, and then I got to pay him $13,000. Now, he was totally worth every penny, right? In hindsight, yeah, he was worth $13,000. But at the time, I was what? 24 or 26 years old? I don't know. That would be a very hard sale. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Podo says, I haven't heard you talk much about the Fed suit against Apple. We briefly talked about it yesterday. I had some more time today to look into it. I think it's a bit ridiculous because let's just be honest. Apple makes a superior product. I don't know how many Android users we have in the chat or iPhone users we have in the chat, but Apple makes a superior product and nobody is forcing you to buy an iPhone, right? However, I do see the argument in a different aspect that Apple is such a massive behemoth that it could just buy out all its competitors and stifle competition. That I kind of get. NBA Elias says, Tom, would you ever do a person-to-person real estate deal without a broker? I would, yes. Like me personally, now that I am an agent, yeah, I would. Peter says, I suppose the sale price is raised 6% to compensate the commissions, so a price rise of 3% due to the lower commission rate is like cutting the sale price. Yeah, but not all markets, and again, I'm just coming from the New York market, and especially out on Long Island. Like out east on Long Island, nobody's getting 6%. But, not to kind of jump back and forth, but let's just jump back and forth. I think that's doing more harm than good, right? I mean, Apple, let's just say what it is. Yeah, we don't like big tech. We all have bad things to say about big tech selling our data and being invasive on our lives. But Apple has really changed the world. It's changed how we live, it's changed how we communicate, it's changed how we make money, and it's a net positive for the world. You cannot argue that technology has been a net negative. It's been an absolute game changer to keep in touch with your loved ones. It's increased safety. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's amazing. So to have this ridiculous, I guess what I'm trying to say, I'll just be very short. The government has bigger fish to fry than to go after Apple. Like nobody's putting a gun to your head and telling you to buy an iPhone, okay? One could make the argument that our government is stifling the competition, right? You could say they've banned Huawei in the United States. You can't buy those Chinese-made phones. Now, I understand the reason behind it. I understand the reasoning why, but you can make the same argument. So, the government should focus on the bigger fish than just to say that, it's stifling competition, because nobody's forcing you to buy an iPhone. Joe E says, Tom, 6% sounds unfair. I thought the going rate was 3%. In many markets it is, but then again, to clarify, everything is negotiable, right? If you're trying to sell your house and you're interviewing, 2 or 3 brokers, which you should, right? If you're in any market out there and you want to sell your home, you should be interviewing multiple brokers to see who's going to do the best job. And the conversation should always come up, okay, what's the compensation? Maybe one of the agents will come in and say, my fee is 6%. Somebody else will say, I'll do it for 4%. Maybe somebody else says, I'll do it for 2.5%, right? You can always negotiate that commission. And you could sell your house on your own. But I think an important part that we shouldn't overlook in this lawsuit, right, is that they were claiming, right, that a lot of the big brokerages out there were colluding with one another. I think this is what a lot of people are missing about this lawsuit, because they say, yeah, everything is negotiable, right? Everybody throws out that term. Of course everything is negotiable. But if you have all the brokers in the industry colluding with each other to say, I'm not going to go below this amount of commission, well, then that's a problem, right? I think everybody would agree with that. I mean, would everybody agree with that or not? So if that's what was going on, then I'm glad that's put to a stop, because that's hurting consumers, right? There should be a free and fair market, and that's why you need some sort of regulation. Because, if I'm selling hot dogs in the corner of New York City, right? And I go to all the hot dog vendors, and I go to this guy, and I said, listen, pal, I'm going to sell my hot dog for $5. In theory, you could undercut me and sell your hot dog for $4.50, but let's collude together and fix the price. That's illegal. That's not ethical. So potentially, that's what was alleged was going on, and if that's the case, I'm glad that that's no longer going on anymore, because that's a big problem. Anyway. That's true. Tariq Khan, you're right. A lot of the phones and things you buy off of Amazon are very risky. I will say this, everybody. Be very, very careful about your wireless internet router. Make sure you're buying a name brand one. Don't skimp out and buy like a $10 router, okay, from China. Spend the $200, spend the $300 to get an actual appropriate internet router, because many of them are no good. All right, we are outside of Macy's. TK Porsche says, but the reality is that commission rates fluctuate considerably, at least in my California real estate market. They are very much negotiable in actual practice. That's a good point there. I should also say, we've been in a very, very tight housing market, which I think is skewing a lot of people's perception of reality. Now, we all know the saying, right? Everybody's like, real estate agents, they make all this money and they do no work and they're stupid. Like, that's the narrative, right? That is not the case in my experience, okay? You make no money, right? That's number one. You make $0. You get no health care, you get no benefits, you get nothing. You get literally physically nothing. And the hours you work is ridiculous. But the reason why I think this lawsuit was really kind of pent up here is because over the last, let's just call it a decade, the housing market has been white hot. But as we all know, there's sometimes in the market where you can't even give a house away, right? Think about in the 2008 financial crisis when homes were being foreclosed on and you couldn't give people houses away, right? Nobody wanted to buy anything. That's when, the tables kind of turn and that is when a really good salesperson kind of comes into play. Also, you should hire an agent that knows all the zoning laws, that knows all the flood zones, that knows how to negotiate, that can actually guide you through the process. Things like that. So in a market where everything is selling sight unseen, yeah, people are like, oh, that was such easy money, they did no work, and they get upset. But it's not like that it's not like that market all the time. And in which case, you're really going to want an agent that knows what they're doing. I know Davi says, I always feel super sketchy to buy cheap tech. Yeah, I used to work for this really smart guy. Well, not work for him, he was our engineer. They call him solutions engineer on our team. And he would build these, build routers and deconstruct routers that you get off of Amazon. And there's literal spyware in all these things. I want to be a cowboy. Says no real estate agents in New York City bust their A. They do, trust me. And specifically at the high end, look into some of the data, not to make the whole stream about real estate, but this is a big settlement here. Almost nobody makes any money in residential real estate, particularly in Manhattan, at the high end, right? There's a handful of brokers that do all the deals, that do all the business. It's a very, very cutthroat, very, very difficult. And so if you're moving to New York City, right, and you're a real estate agent, think about what that means, right? You're in the highest cost of living city on earth, okay, where rent is $5,000 price points, and a lot of the top agents are 60 years old, 70 years old that have been in the market so long. So they do a lot of work. If you're a good agent in New York City, you're doing crazy hours, like sick hours. When I was a director, my previous job, I was a director of enterprise sales at a tech company. I ran the Northeast from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, all the way up until Maine. I had a massive multi-million-dollar book that I was responsible for. I worked less doing that than what I do now, by far. By far, far, far. That's what I'll say. All right, so this is Koreatown. Wow, lots of people out tonight.
4 hours. Yo.
Let's check out some of the menus. And by the way, that's not a complaint. I love what I do. I have a really amazing opportunity, and my boss is fantastic, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's a very, very good opportunity. It's unbelievable opportunity. So definitely not complaining at all. I'm a worker. I could do 75, 80 hours like it's nothing and bang out these streams every night. All right, I got to give you guys this recommendation here. This place is called Sorimara, and it's a malatang place. Really good. Now, malatang is not Korean. It's actually a Chinese dish. It's like very, very spicy. But this is a Korean. This is a Korean chain. So if you're visiting Koreatown, you got to come to this place, Sori Mara. So just remember that. That place is fantastic. I'll give you a shot of the street looking west. I know, Grand Street, once is New York City, 3 inches of rain tomorrow. I really hope the city doesn't flood. I hope the subways don't flood, because a lot of people's apartments on the ground floor get destroyed when it rains really bad here. All right, let's walk to the end of the block, and then I gotta plug in my phone for a minute.
Pushing on me.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot. I mean, we covered the NAR settlement, we covered the antitrust violations with Apple. What else did we cover? We covered the Fed. We covered the Reddit IPO, the Truth Social SPAC that's going to make Trump $3 billion. Davi says, Tom, what is your thoughts on flipping houses? So I don't personally flip houses. I think it's just too risky for me and too time consuming. Now, some people make a fortune doing it, right? But you could also lose a fortune doing it too. Because, if you're buying a lot of houses in a white hot market, you do minor cosmetic repairs and then flip it. I mean, it works until the market's not white hot anymore, right? But there's value to be had everywhere. I mean, you just kind of got to know what to look for. And if there's a property selling below market value for whatever reason, and you can come in there and make some improvements, I think it's a pretty good deal. Oops, hold on. You know what, everybody? I do have to apologize, because I don't have my phone charger, so it looks like we're gonna have to end the stream here. Apologize for that. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the live stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video, click the subscribe button if you're new. And if you're interested in the New York City real estate market, and if you want to see some of our projects, I am on the Kirsten Jordan team at Douglas Elliman. We're one of the top teams in all of New York City, if not the entire country. And we also have a development arm of the business where we build residential skyscrapers here in New York City. Some of our projects have been 75 First Avenue, 139 East 23rd Street. So feel free to check us out. All right, guys, have a wonderful weekend. Be safe with all the craziness that's going on in the world, all these horrible terrorist attack that happened today. Everybody be safe. God bless America, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. And stay dry too. Looks like it's gonna rain like crazy. All right, guys, see ya. Hang with Mark Mom, I appreciate it. Optimus 17, Janice, Trade Brigade, MD. Leave a like, subscribe, and we'll see you later. All right.